little more, good. That broke the scales. What's the plan now? The all-electric Cadillac Escalade IQ is here, and it laughs in the face of every other normal SUV on sale today. 24-inch wheels, 750 horsepower, a battery big enough to power 3 Teslas, and a 40-speaker sound system, because why the hell not? So I have one enormous Cadillac and a few important questions to answer. Maybe most important of them, is this worth 160,000 American dollars? This is Edmunds Fully Tested. Now let's find out. We're Edmunds, and we test hundreds of cars each year on the road and at our private track, so you get the most trusted reviews. If you want to know which car, truck, or SUV is the best, then stick with us. Let's start with the range because it is insane. We've range tested over 100 EVs, so now we've got it down to a science. We start with a full charge and drive it on the same loop of city roads and highway slogs until the battery has just 10 miles of range or less left in the bank. In the IQ, that took 3 people and over 13 hours of total drive time. And that's because it went really, really far. 460 miles. That's how far Cadillac claims that the Escalade IQ can cover on a single charge. But they were wrong, big time. In the official Edmunds EV Range Test, the Big Caddy managed an absolutely ridiculous 558 miles. My friends, you are looking at the new #1 on our leaderboard. The difference is just how enormous the Cadillac's battery is. A Hyundai Ioniq 5, a respectable, normal person EV, that has a battery capacity of around 80 kilowatt hours. Call that a pair of AA's. The Rivian R1S with the max battery pack that gives you almost 400 miles of range, that's a big battery, about 140 kilowatt hours. But at a colossal 205 kilowatt hours, the Escalade IQ has the highest capacity battery of any vehicle currently on sale. It basically has the energy of the sun crammed into a long flat rectangle under the seats. Charging the Escalade goes pretty quick too. Plus, with an adapter, you can charge at some Tesla supercharging stations, although they won't be as quick as a 350 kilowatt CCS charger if you can find one. But more importantly, this thing has 750 horsepower, so let's test. The IQ sprinted to 60 in 4.9 seconds and continued through the quarter mile in 13.1. We recorded similar numbers on the Kia EV9 and the Hyundai Ioniq 5 for reference. And just for funsies, the V8-powered Escalade V was quicker at 4.8 seconds, and the Hummer EV with its extra electric motor stomped the IQ, recording 3.5 seconds. The lesson here is even with 750 horsepower available, it is difficult to get that much weight up and moving. And just in case my boss is watching this, if you're shopping for something new, you can get an instant offer for your car and look at new car listings all on Edmunds.com. It's also difficult to slow down that much mass. The IQ stopped from 60 to 0 in 139 feet. That's bad. The Rivian R1S did it in 128 feet, and even the Maybach EQS SUV, which is not exactly a featherweight, did 112 feet. On the skid pad, the Escalade IQ also did pretty bad, 0.73 Gs, which shows that this is a low-grip vehicle. So as an Escalade, one of the IQ's most important jobs is being comfortable. So let's talk about ride quality for a second. This has both magnetic dampers and air suspension, both of which are good for keeping things comfortable. But it also has 24-inch wheels, and because the car is so heavy, the tires are blown up within an inch of their life. The back tires are up to 71 PSI, which if you don't know anything about tires, that is crazy, crazy high pressure, which means anytime you hit a bump, you feel it. So all that's to say, I would like to drive one of these with a smaller wheel option, which I hear is coming as soon as next year. So I don't know what you need from your 9,000 pound SUV when it comes to handling. As you can imagine, something this size is not exactly an athlete. For everyday driving though, there are some highlights to point out. The four-wheel steering, for example, reduces the turning circle by a huge amount. So when you're navigating something small like a parking lot, it can help out quite a bit. And it's actually tuned really well. I can barely feel going around turns right now that the back wheels are working out to help the front wheels as well. Now, when it comes to noise, on the other hand, this is a very different experience than the last time I went around this track in an Escalade V.
That noise is insane.
Turns out when you don't put a giant screaming V8 inside of it, it's a lot more calm, a lot more relaxed. Cadillac did an excellent job keeping things quiet just the way you want. So it does have brakes when you need them, but you have to really get on the pedal. It travels way down deep before the car actually starts to slow down. One good thing is you do have multiple levels of regen. You can bring the car all the way down to a stop without ever having to actually touch the brake pedal. There's this little paddle on the left-hand side of the steering wheel, and when I squeeze that, the regen gets super aggressive, puts a lot of juice right back into the battery. All right, let's accelerate. I'm gonna activate V mode on the steering wheel. Here we go. All right, now you feel the four-wheel steer a little bit more, and we're gonna give ourselves lots of time in the braking zone because that's vaguely a little bit terrifying. It doesn't feel natural that something this big is this quick. It's like if you made a Mack truck as quick as a Mustang. So driving something this enormous, tall, wide, long, etc., it's actually a little difficult to see small cars around you on the road. And the visibility out the back ain't great either. The window itself is at this weird angle and the pillar just cuts right into it. So using my eyes, I can't see much when I look over my shoulder. That's why Cadillac had to install about 3,000 different camera angles in this thing just to help you see what's around you. I just can't get over how big this is. Something like this should be fun to drive, and this is more alarming than it is fun. Somebody in Detroit clearly thought it was a good idea to make this thing drive sideways, and I'm not sure exactly what that achieves, but for 160 grand, this better be able to do some tricks. But that's really the point here. I mean, yeah, it's big and it's practical so a family can use it, but way more importantly, it's a giant show-off machine. So the IQ's overall length sits right in between the big Escalade ESV and the standard Escalade. But to give you a little bit more context, this is 1.5 feet longer than the Hummer SUV, which is the other largest vehicle on the planet. And compared to the Tesla Cybertruck, this is a few inches wider, a few inches taller, and somehow the IQ is even longer than the Tesla. It is massive. But Cadillac is not a bunch of quitters, folks. They got one more trick up their sleeves. Look at this. That is called the Escalade IQL, and it is technically even bigger than the car I am driving today. Now you can see that it's a little bit more boxy, which means that you get more cargo space and better headroom for those third row passengers. So if you regularly need to carry a car full of people and all of their things, buy an IQL. So one of the big benefits of buying this over the regular Escalade is that you get a huge front trunk area because there's no engine, obviously. In fact, it's so big in here that any normal size human can't reach the back. So Cadillac went in and installed this kind of Santa's sleigh looking thing. So you can load your stuff onto here and push it back. So the automatic doors, they're definitely a fun feature, but as I have learned this week, the sensors are on it. So if you open the door and you are in the way at all, they're not going to open. So instead, what you have to do is pull the handle like this and then move as quickly as you can if you want any shot at them opening all the way. I guess the good news is that the sensors do work and that they're not going to open into the car next to you. 55 inches of screen across the dash. That's still like the size of most people's living room TVs. So it's divided into what I call like zip codes almost. Like in front of me is all of the driver information. Then in here you have sort of the central entertainment and maps. And then over there in front of the passenger is a whole range of entertainment options. As you'd imagine, when you have this much screen real estate, some of it is redundant. So like right now I have maps in front of me and maps in the middle, and I don't need this many maps. I'm not a sea captain. It is configurable though. So you can go ahead and change this to the gauges. You can change it to the driver assistance assistance features. You can even use night vision if you wanted to, though that's not very helpful during the daytime. Over here in the middle section of the screen, everything is Android based, which the good news there is I get Google Maps, the Google Assistant, and the Play Store, so I can download third-party apps like Spotify. The bad news, and this is probably the biggest bummer when it comes to technology in this car, is that I don't get Android Auto and I don't get Apple CarPlay. You can get this exact same screen in a gas-powered Escalade that has Apple CarPlay, but not here. It's a crazy decision. We've been on GM about this for years now, but they haven't changed it. So it used to be that only people in the back seat got entertainment, but Cadillac has now brought that up to the front passenger as well. There's a bunch of different things integrated like Hulu and YouTube, for example, so you can find all your favorite content quickly, run it through the speakers or your headphones. This car has a 36 speaker AKG sound system. It is one of the best I have ever heard in any car that I've ever tested. And depending on how you configure the rear seat, you can do up to 40 speakers, which is just insane. They are sprinkled all over the interior. Anywhere that they could put one, they put a speaker. If they found a way to put it in the cup holder, they probably would have. There's just not enough buttons and knobs inside of this car. I get a teeny tiny one for the audio control, and that's about it. Everything else is through a screen, like the air conditioning controls. Even the glove box is through the screen. I have to hit controls, then another button called doors and windows, because that makes sense, and then I can open the glove box. That's too many steps. So for $160,000, the interior needs to have both razzle and dazzle, and the IQ definitely does, don't get me wrong. The embroidery work in these seats is gorgeous. I mean, the pattern just looks fantastic. There's wood all over the place, though I don't know why they covered it in this ultra shiny, like mid-2000s reminiscent lacquer. You could definitely do some open pore wood and that would have looked much better. In general, I think the materials they used are up to par, and the color schemes that you can pick from are really fun and creative. They just could have stuck the landing a little bit better on some of the finer details. All right, so back here in the second row, things are pretty darn good, I have to say that. The space that I have in front of me with my legs is solid, and there is enough headroom for the second row passengers. I have manual controls for sliding the seat backward and forward, and I have another manual control to really recline backward if I want to, but that also means that nobody is fitting back there behind me if I choose to do that. I get the exact same entertainment options that I do as the front seat passenger, so the YouTube, the Hulu, and all the stuff in front of me. You know, it's good to keep you entertained. Here in the center console, there is a ton of different variation that you can do. I have my own temperature control over here and my own fan speed control. Same for the passenger on this side, and I'm not sure I've ever seen this before. There is a separate temperature control for the third row that they can't change, so I am in control of their destiny up here. And if all of that isn't enough for you, there's a nearly $10,000 executive rear seating package that adds massaging seats back here, tray tables. That Cadillac says is what you want if you are going to be chauffeured around in your IQ. So once you get the people in the middle row to dial in your temperature the way you want it, it's not too bad back here. There's a decent amount of legroom that you should ask them to scoot forward a little bit as a courtesy. Anybody 6 feet or over is going to have a tough time. This is really not made for adults. I have a nice little armrest, a place to charge my phone, and that's about it. The IQ's cargo area is big enough to accommodate both a check-in size suitcase and a carry-on size, depending on how you move everything around. But this being a full-size family SUV, I have convenient power controls to add a lot more space on the fly. So I can control the third row independently, both sides of it 60/40, which gives me a lot more room to mess around with. And remember, if you need it, you also have that room in the front area. Point being, there's a lot of space. You get a flat load floor all the way up to the first row. And if you need to tow, the IQ actually does quite well. You can tow up to 8,000 pounds. That's only 200 pounds less than a gas-powered Escalade, and that's better than the Rivian R1S and the electric Mercedes G-Class. Do you like what you see here on the Edmunds channel? If so, do us a favor and like and subscribe. The Cadillac Escalade has been a smash hit for decades now because of its in-your-face opulence and room for the entire bougie family. Now the IQ has all of that as well, which by default makes it a success. There are definitely some things that Cadillac could have done differently here, and at this kind of money, it is far from a good value. But if you're interested in the ultimate luxury electric SUV, that is it. Look no further. But what do you think about the IQ? I'm curious. Let us know in the comments, and as always, Thanks for watching.